Hey, Hobo. Hey, Daniel Ballard, how you doing? Hey, Fitzy. Van is here. Good evening, Cheyenne, Darlene, Bobby, PH, how you doing? Thanks for liking the live, Hobo. What's up, bud? Hey, Bernard, Anthony, Wind, Jessica, hello. Hey, Tisno. Friends of mine just got back from Croatia. They had a great time. They had a really, really lovely time. The only part of the trip that was a problem was the 40 fucking hours on the bus to get there. Hey, Stig, welcome, Denmark. Hey, Richard. Hey, guys. Yeah, David, what are you going to do? We'll talk about that in a second. Hey, Mel. So the peeps are coming in. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, here in Kyiv, it's midnight. It's just past midnight. I apologize for running late. I had a friend drop by very unexpectedly late this evening, and they've just left after curfew. So they don't have far to go, but I'm hoping they get home without incident. Hey, Vanetta. And so I apologize, I'm running a little bit behind. Hey, Jacob. And the big story, of course, the thing that's on everybody's mind is Trump. Trump is now officially the Republican nominee for the presidency, and he has chosen as his running mate J.D. Vance, who is notoriously anti-Ukraine. J.D. Vance specifically opposes a no-fly zone over Ukraine and the interdiction of U.S. forces or NATO forces in that way. Now, this is on the heels, of course, of what we all think of as the attempted assassination of the former president, and what appears to be a foiled assassination attempt. This of the man who reintroduced political violence to America. Look, I decry political violence, violence in all its forms. This war is a great example of violence that need not happen, should not be happening, is in itself an evil in the world. And that action on Saturday was reprehensible, regardless. Samantha, I feel you that it was all staged, right? But there's a person unalive. There's two people unalive, the shooter and a bystander in the crowd, plus two people in critical condition in the hospital. Now, is it possible that this kid was so dedicated to Trump that he thought he would propel him into the White House with a failed assassination attempt? It's not impossible. It's not impossible. And yes, Samantha, I agree that Trump would sacrifice anyone for power. But that doesn't mean that he was in on it. It does not mean that he was in on it. And I'm unaware of whether we know for sure that the bullet grazed his ear or that was glass from the teleprompter. They've been upgraded to stable condition, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you. The last that I had seen, they were at least one of them was in critical condition. So that's a blessing, right? Hey, Eli. So we're glad for that. The impact of this on the election, everybody here knows that it has been my opinion that Trump can't win. That's my opinion. That he does not have, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have the numbers. Now, I have to confess, though, that we don't understand yet how this changes the calculus. And I am concerned that this could elicit feelings of sympathy, martyrdom, attempted martyrdom, that kind of thing. So we're going to have to wait and see. And the reality is, and I see somebody in the comments saying that Biden should use the new immunity now. Well, Biden's not going to do that, right? Because the fact that this bullshit notion of immunity that the Supreme Court has pushed on us, Trump's Supreme Court has pushed on us, doesn't imply authority. And in our world, the world that we live in, the military is required only to follow legal orders. When they are given illegal orders, they are required to say no. And there are enough good men and women in the United States Armed Forces that I don't think anybody's going to follow illegal orders, or, it's going to be a problem. What happens if Trump does get in for Ukraine? That's a great question, Anthony. Trump will undoubtedly sell Ukraine to Russia. That's what he'll try to do anyway. He's already made it clear that his peace plan here is for Ukraine to surrender. That's the Trump peace plan. Make no mistake. So it's very hard to say what will happen in that eventuality. So that is the big news. Donald Trump survived what appears to be an assassination attempt, and he has nominated J.D. Vance, who is opposed to any kind of support for Ukraine, and specifically to the no-fly zone idea, which everybody here knows we are pushing on this channel. And Vanetta Larrett, who manages our Google Doc share, has a great letter to your congresspeople, Senate, and the White House requesting a no-fly zone here. Well, Bobby, when we think about Trump-proofing Ukraine, right, that NATO's going a long way to do that. So they're making long-term contingency plans that are not dependent on the United States. And that reality, right, as everybody prepares to Trump-proof the Ukraine aid, is filtering into all the corners of NATO. And so these latest announcements that we saw from the NATO summit this week in D.C., all are intended to Trump-proof support for NATO and Ukraine. And that's a good move. That's a good move from everybody, right? We're prepared. We need to Trump-proof the U.S. You ain't kidding, Amy. You ain't kidding. There is... Hey, Wanpa. How you doing, pal? There is, as Wanpa can certainly attest, there is a heat wave here in Ukraine. And that heat wave is topping the thermometer out at about 35 degrees Celsius. That's about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And with no power, that means no air conditioning. Now, we were very fortunate. Now, yesterday, we had power for 5 hours. We had 19 hours straight with no power, which makes normal daily life difficult, as everybody knows. Today, we had power all day. So I am fully expecting that sometime after midnight, it will cut out again. And so I've got the emergency lights in place. I'm using the Ukrainian phone for this. And, hopefully we can keep the live going when the power goes out. Not if, but when. Now, in terms of the heat wave, what it's done here in Ukraine is stressed an already overburdened electricity grid. The demand for electricity to run air conditioners is a real thing. And out in the west of Ukraine, there was a substation fire which cut power then to a number of citizens. And there are wildfires in Russia in the Rostov region around Novorossiysk, which is the alternative port that the Black Sea Fleet is currently using. We saw pictures today, satellite pictures of Novorossiysk, and there are 25 vessels there. Now, it is important to remember that at the start of this war, the Black Sea Fleet had approximately 74 vessels in port. The Ukrainians have destroyed a third of that, a little more. About 30 of them have been sunk or are no longer seaworthy thanks to the Ukrainians. Novorossiysk is jam-packed with 25 war vessels there. And then the rest seem to have been dispersed between a shallower port on the Sea of Azov that can take the small ships and the new port in Georgia, where H. Sutton just reported this week that the first warship to enter the new Georgian port is currently docked there. The last seaworthy patrol boat that was in Sevastopol left today. There is no longer a single seaworthy vessel in the Black Sea port of Sevastopol. They have all been driven from there by the Ukrainians. It's an incredible achievement for a country that essentially has no navy to speak of, whose two biggest warships, corvettes, are currently docked in Turkey. Waiting for the war to be over so that the Straits of the Dardanelles can open up and they can be permitted to return home to port. But that is not happening anytime soon. Hey, Jeff. Hey, cool. When it comes to the heat, let's return to the subject of the heat. Guys, let me tell you, I walk down the street to the pharmacy, and I come back, that's 2 blocks in this heat, and I am drenched. I got to change my shirt and take a shower. Can you imagine having 70 pounds of body armor on and being in a trench? I can't even imagine it. And all up and down the front line, the battle is engaged. These guys are out there in this shit. And they do not stop. And they can't stop. So over the weekend, a couple of things. In the Voronezh region, a train was derailed around Litsky. And another one in Stary Oskil was also derailed. Now, look, a train derailment is normally news. But over the weekend, we saw 2 trains derailed, one of them at a major supply hub for the Russian effort in Ukraine. So it seems unlikely that these are common accidents. They're more likely the work of partisan activity, but nobody has taken credit for them. In Kursk, in the Suska area, in the town of Suska, a TV broadcaster antenna was blown up and an electrical substation was targeted by Ukrainian drones. This is proximate to Sumy. This is just across the border from Sumy. And this is important because we believe, as reported by General Kirill Budanov, who's the head of the SBU here, the kind of intelligence directorate of Ukraine, according to him, an attack is coming. Like it's in. Can you imagine the insanity of this? We've just seen 32,000 Russian troops committed to the Kyiv offensive, and they are being ground to nothing. and you're going to open another offensive? That it's insanity. It's absolute insanity to me. And yet that's where we're at. That's where we're at. And it appears as though these hits across the Russian border from Sumy are advance hits against logistics and communication in order to slow that incursion. But we shall see. It seems likely that there is an attack coming in the Sumy direction. In Rostov-on-Don, a gas cylinder storage location went kaboom. Apparently the victim of Ukrainian drone strikes. Up in the north, okay, now let's talk about this offensive that is happening under this incredible heat wave, right? Ukraine breaking, smashing daily temperature records. The last time that it was this hot on this day was in like 1876, according to reporting. And so it is, it's not pleasant. It's not, you do not want to be around me. Nobody is hugging me these days, I'll tell you. I am just a shimmer of sweat all the time. God, I hope my skin improves. So in the north on that Kyiv advance, now think about this. It's 95 fucking degrees. You're walking around with 30 kilos, 75 pounds of fucking body armor, carrying an AK-47 or something else. It's got to be hell. It's got to be absolute hell. Think about your vehicles, right? The oils, the fluids can overheat, break the vehicle down, cause the engine to seize up, even start fires. And they're dealing with that on the front line. We saw that down in the Kherson region last week, where fires got out of control and swept through the woods and open spaces, as well as burning the Russians out of their entrenched positions. So this is a real threat. On that northern axis, the Ukrainians claim to be mopping up in the village of Hiloborivka. That's a tiny little village right on the Russian border that the Ukrainians appear to have pushed the Russians out of after their incursion. Or they're just on the northern edge of the village pushing them out of there. In Vovchansk, the fighting is intense, and I'm getting mixed reports. I'm getting reports of a Russian breakthrough that has allowed the guys from the aggregate plant to escape and rejoin the forces. But then I'm also getting reports, that Ukrainians are pushing in on that southern line and pushing the Russians north, separating them from the aggregate plant. So it's not clear. We're definitely deep in a fog of war on Vovchansk. The hottest fighting on the front is in the Pokrovsk region, where in the last 24 hours, the Ukrainians have repelled 35 Russian attempts at advance, 35 attacks. The next in that list is the Toretsk direction, which is being described as tense. This is around the town of New York. There is actually a town here in Ukraine named as an homage to the city that never sleeps. And the fighting there is being described by the Ukrainian command as tense, or a high tension situation. In the last 24 hours, the Ukrainians have repelled 12 assaults by the Russian forces there. South of Sevastopol at the Cape, it appears that the Ukrainians hit the radar unit of another S-400 system. And remember, these missile systems are not a single piece, right? There's a command and control piece truck, there's a radar truck, there's the launcher trucks, and they're all separate pieces that integrate together and work together. Well, without the radar, the thing is blind. And so it appears that the Ukrainians did hit, we're still waiting on confirmation, but there's a good chance that the Ukrainians did hit the radar component of an S-400 missile system south of Sevastopol. In addition, they definitely hit a TOS 1A thermobaric gun. Now, the Russians only had 50 of these or so in inventory at the beginning of the war. They're down to maybe 7 or 8, something like that. That's all that's left with the loss of this one. The Russian Duma, now Bobby said before that he's hearing that Russia's out of men. Russia's out of men that want to fight for no good reason and probably get unalived in Ukraine, that's for sure. So what is happening with the Russian Duma? The Russian Duma is trying to solve this problem by granting Belarusians living in Russia a kind of quasi-citizenship. Let them participate in voting, social welfare programs, everything. Welcome our Belarusian brothers into the good graces of the Russian Federation. Oh, wait, by the way, now you're also qualified to be drafted. It appears that this bill is just an excuse to turn the Belarusian citizenry that's living inside of Russia into cannon fodder. That's what it appears to be. And Belarus has made some news this week. The problem that Lukashenko created when he moved a bunch of troops onto the Ukrainian border, which you goddamn know he did, just to try to draw Ukrainian troops away from the front line, to imagine a threat from Belarus as if there could be one. He's drawn them away, citing that there is no longer any tension with Kyiv. Now, that's an interesting thing to say, and I wonder what Putin would say about that there's no longer any tension with Kyiv, between Kyiv and Minsk. I wonder how Putin would feel about that, huh, Bobby? I do wonder about that. Now, I do have a kind of weird idea in my head, and I have no evidence of this, okay? I want to be very clear about that. But it does appear that Lukashenko's change of mind followed a discussion that he had with some representatives of Kyiv. It also follows 2 days in which Russian drone attacks on Ukraine, saw Russian drones go sightseeing. They just took off, boy. Where'd they go? They went to Belarus. They flew right over Ukraine, went to Belarus, right over fucking Minsk, and before returning to Russian territory. Now, just suppose that our boys here in Ukraine, who are geniuses, they got some real geniuses here, figured out some kind of an electronic jamming thing where they could then control the Russian drones. And they flew them over Belarus, and they told Lukashenko, move those troops back or a whole bunch of Russian drones are coming your way. It's far-fetched. It's insane of me to even suggest it. It's just a coincidence that the two things happened at the same time. There's no way that the Ukrainians have figured something like that out. Or is there? I don't know. Time will tell. I don't know. Do they have a Freedom of Information Act here in Ukraine? How long are we going to have to wait for that? So it's unlikely that the two things are related, but I like to fantasize a little bit. Russia claims that over the weekend, 15 drones were shot down over the Bryansk Oblast. Bryansk is just right in the corner between Ukraine and Belarus, next to Kursk. Power stations hit, communications antenna hit, and it looks like that's a thing because the HUR released video today of their destruction of Russian targets, and it is quite a series of videos. Now, it's unclear over what kind of a time frame these were taken, but the implication from the HUR or the GUR, the Ukrainians don't really make a distinction between G and H. It's very unnerving in a lot of ways. But so you'll see it as the GUR or the HUR. Has released video of the destruction of communications and surveillance equipment and antennae all along the Donetsk, it appears to be the Donetsk region. Although some of the video, it's not clear where it's geolocated to. Russian bases and dozens of vehicles. So the HUR is out there with their drones hunting Russian communications, Russians, and their vehicles. And they are doing a bang-up job, boy. Spain, on the subject of foreign military aid, Spain sent another 10 refurbished Leopard 2A4 tanks. That brings Spain's total contribution up to 20. And if Trash Hunter is here, congratulations, Trash Hunter. That's a nice hit from Spain. But also, it's worth, I guess, extending congratulations on winning the Euro. The football match here. Apparently, the world champions are Spain this year. So congratulations, Spain. Did they beat England to win the cup, David? I don't know anything about European football. It is my distinct pleasure to report that I didn't realize that, Trash Hunter. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. It is my pleasure to report that today, Ukraine has signed 23 bilateral security commitments with 23 separate nations. And it was reported by the office in Kyiv that there are 9 more such bilateral negotiations currently taking place. And so Ukraine is supported by the world. Who's Russia got really in its corner? Iran and North Korea, 2 complete pariah nations. And the Chinese, who keep saying they're not supporting Russia, even though we know they are. Get this, Merkur, which is a German publication, is reporting that Germany secretly sent a large tranche of aid in June and early July. That aid included 39 new Leopard A2 tanks, 2A tanks, and new air defense components. And that's according to Merkur in Germany. Now, I don't have any details beyond that, but this aid was apparently delivered secretly by order of the I'm sorry, I'm going to say this wrong, the Bundeswehr, the Congress in Germany. Now, we've been talking about this codicil in the bilateral security agreement that Ukraine has with Poland that sets up a framework that would let the discussions happen about how Poland could shoot down Russian missiles over Ukraine. And you know as well as I do, I think that that's a great fucking idea, that we should be doing that. That there should be a no-fly zone west of the Dnipro, and it should be enforced from NATO bases in Romania and Poland. And we have a letter to Congress on that, right? J.D. Vance opposes it, as does Jens Stoltenberg, which I was very surprised to hear him say. But Stoltenberg today said very plainly that this is not NATO's war and NATO has no intention of getting involved in it. And why these people say these things that let Russia know where our red lines are is insanity to me. In public, you should be keeping everything on the table. Let them wonder how far you're going to go. I do not get it why we are constantly selling ourselves short and shy with them. He went on to add that Ukraine would be getting Patriots and NASAMS. And let's hope that those are on their way. Zelensky has said that this country needs 25 Patriot missile systems to secure itself. That could be right? I mean, I don't know. Right now, we're looking at getting 8 into the country, maybe. And then if we can get those other 8 from Israel, that would be 16. That's barely half of what the country needs. It's barely half of what the country needs. So we shall see. Ukraine destroyed a rare and expensive $1 million Akatsiya self-propelled gun. So this is a piece of field artillery. It runs $1 million a piece, and it blew up in spectacular fashion. The video of it is quite a thing to see. Now, this is somebody said their loose lips sink ships, right? Walter Williamson. Hey, WW. Walter, you make an excellent point, right? Some of what we're told knowing that it's not true, because it's important that the enemy believes it to be true. And so operational security is important. One of the questions that's been on everybody's mind is the training of the Gripen pilots and technicians, mechanics, and aircrew that's been going on in Sweden. Now, it's my understanding that we had 12 pilots in that Gripen training program, and then another 70 personnel, mechanics, ground crew, technicians. And their training is just about done. For the pilots are finished, I guess, or the other way around. I'm sorry, the mechanics are finished, and the pilots are about to be finished. And so there was discussion of whether or not the Gripens would be coming to Ukraine. For their part, Sweden said that they wouldn't deliver the Gripens until Ukraine was in NATO. Then Kyiv said just last week that they wouldn't accept the Gripens until they had integrated the F-16s into their air force. Now both sides are saying that they are in discussions to deliver the Gripens. So again, I don't pretend to know what's true in this situation. I can only tell you what they are saying. And it seems to be a complete 180 from what we heard last week. And that Sweden and Ukraine are now in negotiations to transfer the Gripens to Ukraine, which by all accounts would be a great move for them. It has also been stated by the foreign minister here that the F-16s have arrived and are in Ukraine. Now, this is the first official word that we have had of that. But he did indicate that they were here. Now, that could explain why for the last week, every single day, we've seen the Russians send drones and missiles against air bases in the west of Ukraine that might be housing those F-16s. That could well be the reason why we've seen this concerted Russian effort to hit airfields in the west of Ukraine. It may be nonsense. I don't know. But the Ukrainian foreign minister stated it as a fact. Thanks, guys. Guys, always thanks for the lives. Thanks for the shares. Thanks for the likes. I really appreciate it. According to the United Kingdom, according to the Military Intelligence Directorate of the UK, May saw Russian casualties of an average of 1,262 a day, while in June that number fell slightly to 1,103. According to Great Britain's Ministry of Defense, it is likely that the Russians lost in excess of 70,000 men in May and June. Further, the British went on to say that those numbers are likely to rise over the next 2 months, or stay about the same because of the continued pressure on the front line and Russia's continued attempts at advance. The front line hasn't really moved, and 70,000 people were taken off the battlefield in those 2 months. It's insanity. Yeehaw, Justin. Hey, Travis, how you doing? Finally, this is just insane. I mean, it's really an incredible thing that on the subject of politicians not telling the truth. What's her name? Maria Zakharova from the Kremlin stated this week that it is the intention of Kyiv to destroy the hydroelectric power plant in Kyiv and then blame the Russians. Now, destroying such infrastructure is a violation of the Geneva Convention 1977 extensions. Article 56, I think, but you'd have to check me on that, fact check me on that. It is insane to think that Kyiv, which currently is out of power, yesterday 19 of 24 hours. Again, today was much better. Look, the lights are still on. I'm so happy. It is insane to think that this city that is struggling to keep the lights on and heat people's homes this winter would destroy the major facility that could solve that problem. This is clearly the Russians getting ready to commit yet another war crime and make sure that they've set it up in people's minds that it's the Ukrainians doing it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Right, exactly. Just like Russia blew up the Novokakhovka Dam and the world was silent on this ecocide. Outrageous. Outrageous. So guys, those are my top lines from the news for the day. I want to thank Cynthia Bella Trisella. I can't pronounce her handle. I don't know what it is. But her real name is Cynthia. And Cynthia is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank you, Cynthia. And I want to thank the moderator team, best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Cheyenne Vanetta, PT, John Williams, J, and Travis. I thank Lars, who's got the Discord server, and Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group. Don't forget, hit up Vanetta Larrett for the link to our Google Docs share that she manages, where you can find our no-fly zone letter to your congressman. So those are the highlights, guys. Questions, comments, points of observation, open discussion now. With all the heat, what are the wildfires like? Walter, I don't know. I don't have reports of wildfires in Ukraine. I have reports of wildfires in Russia, and so we have less visibility into that. But it's hot and it's dry, and so the conditions are perfect. Biden can win unequivocally if he brings Putin's regime to its demise before elections. No-fly zone. I wish I knew that to be true, Bobby. I hope you're right. Have a nice... Peter, have a nice coloring when you're finished? I don't know what that means. I am so glad Romania donated one Patriot battery. Hope it's already in Ukraine. Serious, I am very grateful to the Romanians as well. And I don't know what the status of that Patriot is. I have not seen any confirmation that it has arrived. How are the people of Ukraine holding up overall? There is an indefatigable spirit here in Ukraine. People are committed to seeing Ukraine made whole again and the Russians expelled. And they know that anything less than that means their subjugation to Russian authoritarianism in the Kremlin. and they don't want it. They do not want it. For anybody interested in fires, Enlils points out that NASA has an online service called FIRMS, which is a fire reporting service, and you can check for open fires anywhere in the world with the NASA FIRMS data. It's a great resource to be aware of. It's a terrible interface. I'm not a fan of the interface. The interface is not intuitive. You got to spend some time in there figuring out how it works. Unfortunately, will not happen. We are asking since 2402. And I wouldn't say that anything, this whole discussion with Poland, in spite of what Stoltenberg said, is an open door to that conversation. So let's not give up hope yet. A cool drink. Yes, I could use a cool drink. Kadyrov is in Chechnya. That's where he is. And we haven't heard much from him. He did tell a huge lie last week. He put out videos saying that his troops, his Akhmat brigades, had invaded Ukraine in the Sumy direction and had taken control over a couple of villages there. That was dispelled as being the kind of Russian lie that we get every day by the mayor of one of those towns putting out a video from behind his desk, which I thought was great, trolling the TikTok army. Hey, Richard Vance Scooter, how you doing, pal? Met and spoke last weekend with English people on the way to Poland with medical aid for Ukraine. Cool. Cool drink. I could use a cool drink. And the refrigerator's been on all day, so the things in it are cool. Samantha has repeatedly said down here in the chat, please donate to Ukraine. And I agree. I'm deeply appreciative of everybody who makes it possible for me to continue doing this and the conversations that we have. But before anybody joins my Patreon or sponsors a live, make sure that you've already done something for Ukraine. And then if you have a little extra, you can send me. It will help to keep me here and alive. I believe I finally have a full-on solution for the power outages. And I'm hopeful to implement that all this week. So I'll be back to normal production no matter what happens with the power. I had a great experience today. Somebody asked me about how I'm doing. I'll tell you, I had an absolutely great experience today. I met a buddy down at the mall because I had to go to I had to buy part of my solution for the power outages are these battery packs. And I needed another one. And a buddy of mine was downtown, so we met at the mall and had a coffee. And while we're sitting there, this young kid comes up to me. I have no idea who he is. Doesn't look familiar to me at all. And he says, hey, aren't you Peter? And I said, yeah, who are you? And he said, I'm Dima. You came to my conversational English lessons in high school last year. And we did this stuff, right? And it was really great. And I really appreciated it. And he was so complimentary. It really did my heart good. One of the things that, you guys know, I try to be helpful around here. And one of the things that's been very helpful is to be a native English speaker going into the conversational English classes for seniors, kids that are getting ready to graduate from high school. And we set up a schedule, a lesson plan, a series of lesson plans, where the kids took their favorite Ukrainian like rock music and translated it into English and then sang it a cappella for everybody. And it was according to the teachers, it's been a wildly successful program. The kids are highly engaged. It's something they like. It's good English practice, yada, yada, yada. And this was the first of those high school kids that I've had the privilege of working with, who I've just run into around town and had something nice to say. What was interesting to me is after talking to him for a few minutes, I remember him. That kid sat in the back of the room and didn't lift a finger. I couldn't get him to say a word in English to me. And on the street today, he was talking like he knew some English. This is a great feeling. Have the Russians gained a lot of natural resources in the east of Ukraine? They have, Yorkshire tea, but they can't exploit them because there's a war on and everything is getting pummeled. So the Ukrainians have that going for them. Hey, gerbils. Give me the vote. Is that a thing? Give me the vote, I guess. More Shoigu aides are being unalived and defecting. That is unsurprising to me, because clearly the whole Shoigu cabal is being purged. That they're all going to be dispatched, detained, or disappeared, or defect. David Fraser mentions that Ukraine has one of the largest proven lithium deposits in the world. If I'm not mistaken, the mineral rights to that deposit were sold to a South African company about 10 years ago, before the Donbass war began. And unfortunately, that deposit is basically on the front line, and so no one is exploiting it. To the best of my knowledge, nobody is mining that lithium. It's just sitting there, and the South Africans are holding on to their mining rights, their mineral rights, waiting for the day that they can exploit that resource. Thanks for all the gifts. Thanks for all the lives. Thank you, Blue Aerial Silk, for all you do for me and for Ukraine. Richard, you on your way to Florida? Nice. TikTok is corrupt. Well, I mean, no human endeavor is perfect, that's for sure. Hey, Joey the Lips. I'm with you, Ant. Let's hope we have a calm night. We just had an air raid here in Kyiv, but I did not hear any guns ringing out. Spell color. Spell gray, David. Quiet ones have their ears open. That could be. I mean, Demon never gave me the impression that he wasn't interested, just that he didn't want to be involved. And I remember having the conversation with his teacher, Alexandra, afterward, that there were two people in that section that we didn't get through to, is how I felt about it. But maybe that's not true. And that made me happy. How is Shoigu still alive? He's a good friend of Vladimir Putin's. Flippy is coming to Ukraine in 3 weeks. Hit me up, brother. Try to give me some notice, huh, pal? My days are pretty booked. Hey, Chef Deb. Trump's VP choice is as anti-Ukraine as he is. Not surprising. So J.D. Vance, if the Vance-Trump ticket were to win, one of the things about Vance that would make him pretty unique as a vice president is he will be one of only 2 vice presidents that ever had a full beard. If I'm not mistaken, the last one was a guy named Schuyler Colfax. Schuyler Colfax. Did the Ukrainians hear about Biden introducing Zelensky as Putin? They must have, but I didn't have that conversation with anybody. Your wife is from Komolensky. Dude, that's where Otis Taylor is, who grows he's an American who grows hot peppers here in Ukraine. Love that guy. I can't wait to get out there someday and see that farm. I'm sorry, Chef Deb, I was late tonight because somebody dropped by the apartment here unannounced, late, and actually did not leave until after curfew. Now, they don't live far from here. I'm hoping that they get home safe. But I was really surprised when he was knocking on the door at freaking 11:30 at night. Yeah. I wonder if a Shoigulis Russia will lose Tuva. I mean, anybody that listens to this channel knows that I think that Tuva wants its independence, and it's going to get it when Russia is demilitarized by their own hand, and they can't force the rule of Moscow on these remote provinces. I don't think they'll be able to hold on to them. Putin will probably ask SA for the usual 50-50. SA, South Africa? Usual 50-50 of what? I don't understand that comment. Are there not mines up north that Russia was trying to use for storage of munitions? There's mines all over this country, Walter. There's mines in the Bakhmut area that at one time you could enter on one side of the front and come out the other side of the front through. And the Russians tried a couple of times to sneak up on the Ukrainians that way without success. Good night, Samantha. How you think if Trump will win, his card could be Putin stop, otherwise you will be... Adis, I'm not sure what you're getting at there. If Trump wins, he's going to just give Ukraine to Putin. The live is normally at 5 Eastern U.S. time, so that's 5 o'clock in New York. It's 2 o'clock in L.A., 2 p.m. in L.A. That's 10 p.m. in London and midnight Eastern European time, Sirius. Kyiv is the safest place to be in this country. We got the best air defense. I mean, there's a reason I don't leave Kyiv, and that's the reason. Pedro, the Tuvan people. Now, you think about this with me. There are 200, if I'm not mistaken, the population of Tuva is I want to say it's 266,000. It might be higher than that. That might be an old census statistic. It might be closer to 300,000. But regardless, the population of Tuva is less than 500,000. Population of Moscow is 13 million. If you were a Tuvan over the last 2 years, you were 8 times as likely to be drafted for Putin's meat grinder than you were if you were a Moscovite. Disgusting. Night, Brian. Yeah, he is young, Nightshade. He's 39. He might well be one of the youngest. Or as you're suggesting, the second youngest. I'm not sure. Is Ukraine successful targeting Russian assets in Russia? No, because we won't let them use U.S. Okay, I should rephrase that. Yes, they are wildly successful given the tools that they have at their disposal. But what they do not have at their disposal is the right to use Western supplied weapons in Russia. And until those gloves are off, until those hands are untied, it's going to be a problem. The Anunnakis are arriving. I don't know what that means. Salt mines. Well, that's the one. That's a salt mine around Bakhmut that I mentioned earlier. Trump has got his charges dismissed. He survived an assassination attempt. Well, he appears to have survived what may have been an assassination attempt. And his charges have not been dismissed. That's not a thing. The best thing probably that could have happened was Eileen Cannon trying to dismiss the case, because she successfully held it up for months. Now that it's dismissed, they can appeal it, have her ruling overturned, and they can move forward. So no, I'm not concerned about that. I still don't think Trump will win. So before the shooting, everybody that follows this channel knows that I didn't think Donald Trump had a snowball's chance in hell. The calculus, the cruel, cold calculus, has changed with this attempt or this shooting. No one can tell you right now, and certainly not I, what effect this is going to have on the American electorate. The American electorate loves an underdog. They love the outsider. And it is very difficult to say that he's still doomed. I don't know, Nicola. I don't know. My daughter lives in Milwaukee right now. She is afraid because of political violence. I don't blame her, Jedi. Richard Chapman, I don't understand your comment there. You seem to be confusing money with people. I don't get that. That's the thing, right? We are... Oh, hang on. I got to do this stupid puzzle thing to prove I'm human. Ugh. Okay. It doesn't change the fundamentals of the race. Here's the thing. The sympathy vote, the sympathetic thing, that's going to be temporary. That's going to be a temporary effect. The next time he runs his mouth, the next time that he does something abysmally stupid or racist or violent, he'll lose that. However, that image of him with his fist in the air and the American flag above him and the blood on his face, that is a powerful image of what appears to be a strong man who's just cheated death. That kind of an image can burn in people's consciousness. And I don't know what I don't think anybody can say for sure what the long-term effects of such a thing are going to be. One commentator before shooting said the anti-Trump feelings were stronger than the pro-Biden ones. I think that generally that's still true. And so that means that people are going to show up just to vote against him. The unofficial numbers that I received is that Trump is short 80,000 supporters. nationally, I mean, he in the last election he lost by 7 million votes or 8 million votes. It seems he'd be much shorter than that this time. Democrats have got to keep reminding people how an evil person he is. Democrats should shut the fuck up about getting Joe Biden out of the race and focus on beating Trump. This nonsense from George Clooney and others is really annoying to me. And Biden isn't even my guy. I didn't vote for him in the primaries in 2020. But I will vote for him for president this year. Roosevelt got shot, still gave his speech, got huge bumps, still lost. Which Roosevelt was that? Which Roosevelt got shot? I'm unaware of any Roosevelt getting shot. Yeah, I don't understand that. Why were his shoes off? Was there an assassination attempt against Teddy Roosevelt? Interesting. I didn't know that. Fitz, I am not one to tell you how to use your vote. If you want to lodge a protest vote, I think that, because voting should be voting for something, not just voting against the lesser of two evils or the evil of two lessers. We should be voting for something. And if both candidates are unpalatable to you, I support your right to protest vote. Oh, everybody's saying Teddy Roosevelt was shot. How do I not know that? Was that in his third run for president? Third party run by Bull Moose, yeah. Can you vote while you're in Ukraine? Yeah, man, I just requested a absentee ballot. No, Marianne, you can't say that, in my opinion. You're not wrong, right? Marianne is saying don't throw away your vote. Trump will win for sure. You're not wrong in that it does give an advantage to the thing you don't want, or that I don't want anyway. But voting is not just about choosing between the candidates. It's about voting your own conscience. And that's why we have write-ins. And if you want to protest vote to let the system know how many people there are that don't agree with these choices, I think that's all the better. If the Democratic Party loses this election to Trump again, they ought to ask themselves why Fitzy is voting for Carrot Top and everybody else like him. Hey, Encino Tech. Okay, so guys, it's 1:15 a.m. here. And I kept the live going because I was late. And so I just wanted to get us through there. Kennedy is definitely pulling more Republican votes. I have no opposition to Kennedy's candidacy as an independent. He will pull votes from Trump. He is a nut job with a worm in his brain. Good night, William. Okay, so guys, again, big thanks to Cynthia, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Big thanks to all the peeps and all the Patreon folks that make all this possible. I'm deeply grateful. I'm deeply grateful that I can afford some battery packs. Thank you, Fitz and Richard Van Scooter and Ballerina for all of that. And also, big thanks to the moderator team, Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, John Williams, Jay, and Travis. You guys are the best. And thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who's got the Peter's Peeps group over on the Book of Faces. Join us there. And, of course, Vanetta Larrett, who's got the Google Docs share where you can get our no-fly zone letter. For anybody that is interested in supporting this channel, the Patreon link is in the bio. I lost a key supporter lost their job this month, and I therefore lost their support, understandably. And then in addition to the loss of that supporter, I lost a couple other small supporters. So if anybody can join the Patreon and give us some more support, I sure would appreciate it. Take a look at the Patreon. I'm a very lucky person, right? There are 169 people that support me in this world. I mean, who's got 169 people that support them? It's a big deal to me, and I really appreciate it. All right, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for your time, your attention, and your patience, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.